What's up guys, and welcome back to Pembroke's Own, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the 2009 post-apocalyptic movie The Road. But to start you off, as always, it is your boys Team RPG. It is Shane, Domi, myself, and coming up Dogger, and today we are actually playing on Al Mazrah. This is the full map, this is the Warzone map. It's much larger than the two other maps, Vondel and Ashika Island, you've seen us play. This one is about 2.5 kilometers along. More players playing the game, but we'll see how we get on. But back to The Road, and I am absolutely outstanded by this movie. This is probably one of the better post-apocalyptic movies, and I know that I am involved in the genre in some way. And I've spoken about it a few times that I don't really like to tell people that I'm into post-apocalyptic writing, because when you say that, people tend to think up, you know, zombies or people walking from A to B, that kind of stuff. And The Road, I mean, some TV programs or movies do zombies brilliantly. If you look at The Walking Dead or The Last of Us, or one of my favourites, even though they're technically not the undead, I think the 28 Days Later or 28 Weeks movies, you know, they're absolutely brilliant for what they bring when it comes to the creatures in the post-apocalyptic world. And the walking from A to B, I'm a fan of a couple of movies. If you look at the Book of Eli, I'm a massive fan of that. But The Road is something else. It is its absolute own monster. So in 2009, directed by John Hillcoat and starring Viggo Mortensen and Cody Smith-McPhee. And this is a father and son story, essentially, with them moving from place to place, and it's not really told you what brought the world to the way it is. It's quite clearly something environmental, but it's never really explained to you if it's, you know, anything through global warming or if it's like a volcanic winter, as I've spoken about in my last YouTube video on Krakatoa. You know, it doesn't have to be humans that can destroy the world. You know, volcanoes and other natural events can pretty much bring the world to a standstill. You know, there's no crops growing or anything like that. And the full plot of the movie, or the main plot, does focus on the father and son trying to survive in the world. It's roughly 10 years after whatever event it was that took place, because there are flashbacks to when they were a family of 3, when the mother, who is played by acclaimed actress Charlize Theron, she was pregnant with their son at the time. And I also do need to point out that the characters' names are actually just man, woman and boy. There's no actual names given to them, so it's a bit of a tough one to bring in. But with the flashbacks, you get a sense of just how bad things were in the beginning. And when it takes you to the current time of the post-apocalyptic, you know, world that they're living in, it's an absolute desolate place to look at. It is, in some terms, it's very depressing. I've heard that the book version of this movie, or the original, I should say, screenplay, is 10 times more depressing. But what it does is it gives you a sense of just hopelessness, but embeds it in reality that some other movies might shy away from. It's quite a hard one to say, but they display it very well in terms of the movie's aesthetic. And what I've got to give this movie credit for is its colour palette, or lack thereof. And you know, in The Walking Dead, there's still vibrant colours on the trees. You know, everything still looks somewhat sort of human. But in this, the colour palette is very dull and very dark, and it just sets that whole depressing mood of severe loneliness. Even though that you are aware that there are other people out there, it's just so severely lonely. And with some of the landscape shots as well, because it's quite a thing in a post-apocalyptic genre to show, you know, destroyed buildings. But this one, the landscape shots are... I've got to give a bit of a pause here, because on our first game in Al Mazrah, I've just given you a victory shot. There you go. Me and Domi come up with the win. Yeah, that was nice. But back to The Road. Some of the landscape shots where it's just not even destroyed, it's just decayed. It's very well played, and the way that John Hillcoat directed each shot, whether it's, you know, father and son talking, or just these wide angles of them walking through these abandoned highways, It's probably the most realistic and scarily accurate out of all the post-apocalyptic sort of fiction that I've ever seen in my entire life. And what it doesn't actually shy away from as well is quite a popular trope that I don't understand that some people might get a bit fed up with this in this particular genre, but it's very realistic of the topic of cannibalism, and this movie does display cannibalism, but you don't actually get to see it, which is a good thing because the movie itself is depressing enough. But you know, cannibalism is a real thing that people will do in order to survive in dire situations. If you look at the siege of Leningrad in World War II, you know, Stalin's Cannibal Island up in northern Siberia, or the Andes plane crash in 1972. You know, people will resort to it, and when there's a lack of vegetation and then animals are dying off, cannibalism will be the next thing. And the scene that they sort of display it, I'm not going to go too far into spoilers, but it's incredibly well done with father and son find this abandoned building. I'm just going to say out front that this abandoned building that they find looks like something out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre anyway. But they go down into the basement because this building, they can tell that people's been living in this building, they're just not home. And then they go down into the basement, and there's just these hostages, just these people captured. Some of them have been, you know, they're missing limbs. And this family, whoever has this house, this is their livestock. And it's, you know, there's no shock in terms of the, you know, like in horror movies where they have to like have that big, you know, bang sound, or, you know, that horrible, you know, what's it called? Like a jump scare effect. There's not that. It's just so harshly realistic. And then when the family come back and father and son try to escape, some of the captees escape as well, helping father and son get away with the distraction. But then they know they can't run out into the open or they'll be spotted, so it's counterintuitive. And this bit is so daunting, where father and son have to stay nearby, hiding in the bushes nearby, because they know they can't run away because they'll be spotted and taken down to the basement. So they have to stay nearby, and as the sun sets and it goes through the night, you just get this outside shot of the building. As you know, the lights are on and you can just hear people screaming, and there's the clear sound, as a chef I can confirm this, of a meat cleaver hitting against the chopping board, clean through bone, and people scream. It's, my god, it's daunting. And the way they do that with some other shots in this movie as well, where you don't actually get to see the vileness that is actually taking place. You see it from the perspective of the father trying to cover his son's ears as they're hidden from it. It's a hard one. This is a very depressing, dark movie, but it's one of those movies that you should watch, I feel. It's not dark and horrible in terms of what like Human Centipede 2 might be, or a Serbian film for that matter. This is just one of those ones you can watch, but just be prepared, it is quite harsh. And as we go into this clip right now, I just want you to be very aware that Shane is on his own now. We're spectating Shane. He's, you know, throwing up his hands and supporting Team RPG. And the counter is, he's got 11 teams left and 24 players, and he's all on his own. And I'm not going to say anything else other than that. But going back to the road, yeah, there's this other shot where this woman's running away with her child, trying to escape another group of these just roaming, just monsters. And I always have to put out that the cannibals in this movie, even though they're not in it a lot of movies will go out their way to, you know, almost like, you know, I'll say demonize them, because cannibalism's a horrible thing as it is. But, you know, they'll try and make them like comically like evil, you know. But these ones just look like humans. In terms, they are humans, they are people, but there's nothing like sadistic or satanic about them at all. It's just, they're just people hunting people now. They just see people as livestock, no different from going out and hunting deer. It's, yes, it doesn't try and over Hollywoodize it, if that's a word, but yeah, and this other shot, as I was saying, that with this woman trying to escape this group of men, and they eventually catch up to her, and Viggo Mortensen is more concerned about keeping his son safe, and the camera just pans to him, as he's watching what happens to her, and you can just hear it. Yeah, it's the way they do stuff so well. You see it in like movies like Alien and Jaws. You don't have to see the creature that much. It's what your mind does when it's not there. That is the biggest scare factor. And there's some there is a few beautiful moments in this movie. I mentioned that the child in this movie was born as this global post-apocalyptic event started to take place. So he really has no concept of like a lot of life. And there's this scene where Viggo Mortensen finds this can of Coca-Cola. I mean, it's 10 years old. The logistics of it, that can of Coke will kill you, but let's just play along with this fiction part of it. It's the kid's first time tasting Coca-Cola. He's never tasted anything bubbly before, never mind the sugar rush. And there's this other scene where they find a storm shelter, and it doesn't look like a prepper shelter. Those preppers in Americas that they have these underground basements full of food. It doesn't look like one of them. It looks more like a storm shelter. That's it's not supplied with weapons. It is just more the food and how to maybe wait out a hurricane or a severe tornado kind of situation. But I could be wrong in that. If anyone's seen The Road, please correct me. But there's just a few moments of beauty. And Viggo Mortensen, I've got to point out here, I told you the numbers earlier. Shane was against 11 teams, 24 people. It is now Shane against 2. Shane has the chance to win it for us all on his own. And he gets some good shots off there. He had a bit of a choke point there to try and maybe take 2 of them out, but he took some damage, so he's got to re-armor. Goes for the flank on them, but he hears them coming back through the middle here. One jumps in the water, leaving his teammate exposed. Shane is able to put him down, but his teammate has heard this. He's come back, he's cracked Shane in the back. Shane with a quick reload, he's quicker to the trigger. And Shane there comes up with the clutch win. I was too excited at this point. I was clapping too. I can't show you the stats. We were just all creaming our pants. But yeah, that's been me talking about The Road. It's a movie I highly recommend you watch. It is very dark, it is very depressing, but at the same time there's moments of beauty and it's just real. If any of you in there want me to hear me talk about another movie I enjoy, or want me to talk about a movie that you particularly enjoy, let me know in the comments. If you are new here, don't expect amazing gameplay footage, but we'll do our best. Please subscribe, and if you like this, leave a cheeky like. Much love, take care, and peace.